Mercedes Mone. J-Bone, first of all, what were your thoughts on Mercedes Mone and her debut in New Japan? I gotta say, the hairdo was dope as fuck, but it had to like take forever to get that shit done. I'm just gonna say,
Yeah,
like, she
I
probably
mean,
was in the chair for like fucking an hour before that shit. Probably.
yeah. Well,
Or
one thing
she's
you
just you got
go
for
ahead.
something like that for like some crazy design. I feel like you'd have to literally
Did you
just be
see
like
it,
laying.
Corey? It
Yeah,
looks like the
yeah, the
flames in the
like
front. Okay.
cheetah. It was like cheetah print, but not quite. It was like
Like a flame, you
circular.
know.
Yeah, it was
Look
like
like the flames.
circular. Yeah, but it was
Look
like
like flames to
circular
me.
patches of blue, and then it would like round off into like orange and then into the yellow of like the actual color. It might have been reverse of actual colors because I'm dyslexic as fuck when it comes to that stuff. But I do remember what she had going on. But I would imagine to do something like that, you'd literally just have to be laid in a like on a flat table and just have your hair just splayed, like just as far out as you can get it and just patch it as you go. Because
Well, look, from my years of knowing women, there's one thing you never do and say, "Is your hair real?" You never do that. All right. So
yeah, I was also
we're not gonna
thinking that same
question
thing.
that
Well, I
part,
mean,
but
her hair's been blue for a long time, but the blue hair wasn't the thing that we were crazy about. Number one, new name, new theme song,
Yeah,
and she
specify
says
for anybody who may have missed out and is blind. Who are we talking about here?
Mercedes
I know,
Mone,
I
formerly
know, I
known as
know who we're
Sasha
talking.
Banks,
Yeah,
made her
there
debut
you go.
in New Japan. This is, hours after making those tweets thanking WWE and all these things. And then she comes out, new theme song, new name, like I said, going by Mercedes Mone now. The gear was fire. I think she still got to work out that finisher. The finisher was a little bit wonky, but I will say this: a match between her and Kairi Sane or Kairi or whatever she's going by now is badass. We all know what Kairi Sane's capable of. To have Mercedes Mone go in there and have that match, it's going to bring a lot of eyes to the women's division over there in New Japan. I guess the question off of that, though, is what do you think, bro? Do you think this is going to be like a one and done? Do you think we're going to see multiple matches? I mean, obviously, if she wins, it can't be a one and done. Hey, yo, Happy New Year, Brock. What do you think about
I
Mercedes
would
Mone in New Japan?
I would hope she's. I mean, look, man, she's got a bank on herself. She wasn't used right in WWE, and here's your chance. I mean, look, we've seen the Cody effect, we've seen the Chris Jericho effect, we've seen what it can do by traveling around. Maybe don't sign a long-term deal anywhere. Put your foot down in a couple places. You know what I mean? They're gonna pay you. I mean, she's the hottest free agent out there, if she's even a free agent anymore. They're gonna pay you. And imagine if she does all this and then still makes an appearance in the Royal Rumble, and then she's gone again, and she goes back and does some new Japan stuff again. Maybe makes an appearance in Impact, NWA. I mean, who knows? But how do you cement your legacy? By showing like people that you're a badass, and she's a badass. She's gonna be capable of doing it. She now has the wrestling world in her hand. Now you got to show us what's up, and then come back and make tons of money. Back up that Brinks truck, dude, because she's about to get paid.
Yeah, the
Oh,
ball
dude,
is
she's
clear.
getting paid out the
The
ass.
the ball is clearly in her court on this one. Like to your point, I mean, I don't know what I would do necessarily. Like, do you make the move to Japan for 1 year, build your stardom over there, and then like really come back swinging when you hit the States? Or to your point, do you just kind of travel about, build your stardom up that way, where it's like, hey, you never know where I'm gonna pop up, you never know whose belt I'm gonna come steal, type of thing. Like
Right.
that's also a very lucrative thing, but I'm very curious, right? Because to your point, if that's really how she feels, as though like she was mistreated, and even with the new direction of WWE, maybe that's not where she's wanting to go. Yeah, like she could do all that kind of stuff, and it would be huge. It would continue to blow up for at least a good little while, for sure,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like that's the current direction she should go, but it's interesting, man. You rarely see an athlete of that level where, like I say, the ball's in their court, right? Like in professional, like even to relate it to fight sports, like even like Nate Diaz and stuff doesn't necessarily have like that level of like I can just appear anywhere type of shit, because it takes way more time to get ready for a fight and everything else like that than it does to appear and make a couple wrestling, appearances and stuff. You can do that with throughout the span of a month. You know what I mean? So it's very wild the direction this is going to go, and I'm also very curious what happened behind the scenes to where we are now that led her to actually kind of be this free agent that we're talking about.
I just don't think there'd be no bad move business wise or personal business wise for her. Like if you're AEW, she comes knocking at the door, say, "Hey, I'd like to do a match on your next pay-per-view, and I'll make 2 appearances a month." Fuck yeah, right? Same thing with WWE. Hey, I'd like to be in the Royal Rumble still, or make an appearance at WrestleMania. Hell yeah, because not only is it gonna your superstardom's just gonna build and build and build, and then eventually you're gonna be stuck somewhere long term because you're gonna be the main player in the women's division wherever you go. So this, like I said, we're adding layer upon layer upon layer right now.
I think the WWE thing, though, not that the door's necessarily closed, because I don't think that's the case, but I think the door would be. No, but I think the door would be closed to something like you're saying, where, hey, go ahead and pop in at a bunch of our competition, go make your star bigger through them, and then also appear every so often for us. I don't think that would be the case. I think if you're going to
no, but I'm not saying do that for both. What I'm saying is you go do New Japan, you go build yourself up for a year, even say 2 years, whatever. I'm not saying she signs anywhere, but
like I said,
you do that and build your star. And then the thing is, you got to remember the reason why her and Naomi left, which will bring us to a point that Brock made in the comments. Brock asked a great point. He said, what about Naomi? Well, I think with what you've got going on, oh Lord, Chase said Mercedes versus Sadika. Holy shit. They wouldn't want to do that. She wouldn't make it back to New Japan or WWE then, but with that,
real quick, the one point I wanted to spit out though is, could she end up doing the Brock, the Goldberg type of route where she does, like, to your point, only appear for pay-per-views and make like big appearances, surprise appearances and stuff like that, and she doesn't end up being like a regular roster type of spot if she does make her return?
I think it'll take some time, but what's going to take this thing into the next universe is if she does somehow appear in that Royal Rumble match. This will take everything that's happening right here, right now, and just skyrocket this shit to another dimension, dude.
Or even I don't think I don't think she's going to show up in the Royal Rumble. Here's why.
Not this
the
quick.
Reason I don't.
It's not this quick.
Yeah, I think it's too quick. Number one, because you got to remember they already have the match booked that she's going to face Kairi Sane in February. All right. So that's already booked. That's going to happen here in the States. I think what's more plausible of what's going to happen out of it, at least in my scope, would be she goes here, she does this with New Japan, even say she wins the belt with New Japan, and then say even if she won it and then dropped it somewhere down the line back to Kairi or something, but she goes there, wins the IWGP belt. Like you guys were talking about, maybe she goes to Impact. Maybe she does show up at AEW like what Brock said, and does that, or, shows up there too. I don't know how much if she shows up at AEW, I think that changes things as far as her going back to WWE.
Would close some doors.
Well, for sure. That's what I'm saying. If she shows up in AEW, that's probably because she's staying there. But what I am saying, though, is that if she goes and does this on a New Japan level, an Impact level, and all these levels, and then she comes back to WWE and says, you better not ever put me on the back burner again, because she's made herself that big of a star. Because you got to remember, we just had Charlotte return, last week, and everybody's comparing, Mercedes to Charlotte. I mean, when they were both in WWE, I mean, I think it's a very close argument that next to Charlotte, she's got to be a number 2 or number 3, depending on your preference, between Becky and Sasha. But I mean, then when you think technically, I mean, she would be number 2 in my opinion. So I mean, like I said, you're not talking about somebody that wasn't already in the top. Plus, she was in the WrestleMania main event.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can we so with Charlotte? But I'm just saying, So was Charlotte and Becky, both were in there too. But what I'm saying is, everybody goes, well, they had the main event. Well, Sasha was in the main event too.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, when you think about a number one and a number two, Sasha was already right there. But if she can go out to New Japan and maybe capture that belt and then go to Impact and do her thing there and then show up all these places, well, then when she goes back to WWE, like you said, J-Bone, there ain't no other way to look at it, but she's getting paid. Like that's got to be where it's at. And right, Monet. I mean, like, you got to look at it like this. I mean, and who better of an opponent? Her versus Kairi for her first match outside of WWE. I mean, for all intensive purposes, bro, that should be a dope ass match.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's February, right? It's announced for February.
I don't remember the date, but yeah, it's here in the States.
I'd love to see her just be a journeyman type of wrestler, though, man. Go everywhere.
Numbers don't lie. She's going to have to sell out everywhere to prove her worth. Is she going to draw an extra 1,000 people everywhere she goes?
I think so. I would think so. Yeah. I mean, just like if the rumblings are that she's going to show up in AEW next week, I would think the crowd will be there for that. Or even if let's just say she goes on her Instagram and puts up Impact, something to do with Impact or Mickey James or something. Or what's the one coming up, Kyle? There's one
Hard to Kill.
Hard to Kill. She could appear there just for whatever reason. Just go sit her ass in the crowd, but like say you're gonna be there. That plants that seed, like, okay, she can do whatever she wants. And that's her saying, look at me. I am a star. Like, I am the star. You know what I mean? So it's just the ball is in her court. Let's just keep it that way. She's got the
I agree. I think it was Monet. Like I said, she looked fire. All I'm saying is I just want to see that finisher look a little bit tighter. But all I'm saying is that shit was badass. Shout out to her for showing up there. And shout out to Bailey taking the trip to Japan to go support you know,
in her defense,
Mercedes,
she was doing it in like really big heels too. Those heels were kind of crazy.
That's a total fair point. But I will say the move looked badass. I've always been a big fan of like the gory bomb and all that kind of stuff. Always